Doug, how are you, mate?
I got to correct you. I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Protest.
Yes.
Exactly. And that is because he is now coaching the Green Bay Phoenix as well as hosting his show, award-winning show. And I understand that you played Oklahoma State, which nobody gave you a chance in hell. Nobody gave you any chance. You went down. That was to be expected. 89-76, Doug. But for me, I spoke to one of the young blokes here who knows his basketball, and he said that was way too close for Oklahoma State. Doug must be doing a fantastic job.
Well, we were okay. I got to get better as a coach, and we got to learn that we were down one at the half, and we got to finish. You know, we have an Australian point guard, Ben Tweedy, who he played in the NEBL 1 this past summer for his father, and he actually led an assist at 18 years old. So we made sure to get at least one Aussie, and we have a Kiwi, at least one Kiwi coming in for next year as well. So we have as much respect for the Aussies and the Kiwis as anybody.
Doug, if you do your homework on Kiwis, they've got a population of only about 5.5 million people. They are the most talented race country in the world per capita by a mile. If you go and look into that, New Zealand is the hotbed. I'd like to say Australia are very good as well, but New Zealand, Doug, they are the most talented per capita country in the world.
Well, listen, I know it, and we think we have an absolute star. I'm not allowed to mention his name until November 13th when he signs his letter of intent. And then there's another player as well that's a Kiwi that we're hot on as well. We think we can get so, and we want to bring him up here to Wisconsin. You know, especially the Aussies fit in great though. You know, because all they want to do is play basketball and get pissed, right? Have a beer.
Pretty much so. Pretty much so.
And have a good time. And I told everybody when we got Ben, I said, look, have you guys ever had Aussies around? They're like, no. I said, I guarantee he's the most popular kid on our team by about the second week. And you know what? Everybody loves Ben Tweedy. He's just a great kid.
Now, Dougie,
so he's 18. He struggled a little bit in our first game, but he'll play plenty. He's gonna be a star by the time we're done with him.
Now, Dougie, talking about drinking, some were drinking in celebration yesterday. Some were drinking, because in commiseration because Donald Trump again is going to be your president. What's the feeling like over there in America?
Well, I live in an area that is very much pro-Trump. I think it's embarrassing. I just do. I think the things, not just, listen, if you just ran on like an agenda of business, on shoring up the border, I guess, if you just ran on the topics, like, all right, I mean, if that's your perspective, I just, I guess if you just lie enough that people don't even pay attention to the fact that nothing's true. But look, the way it works in America, the way it's supposed to work is we vote, whoever wins gets the power. And then in 4 years, we do it again. So I just, he lied about President Obama, where he's from. He lied continually about losing the last election. He told people that maybe they should drink bleach to get rid of COVID, you name it. But I guess I don't understand it. But I'm not going to sit here and like wallow in my sorrows. That's not how we're supposed to do it. Democracy survived over 200 years. We'll survive 4 more years. And then, if he doesn't do a good enough job, we'll get somebody, obviously he can't run again. But the other party will take over. It's not like the other party's great. It's just, I don't think, not every Trump supporters are racist, but there are racists that support Donald Trump. So it's like we say about Raider fans. Not every Raider fan's a gangster, but every gangster is a Raider fan. So I think there's a way in which you can win an election. I don't think that's the way. There're just so many just flat out lies. I mean, talk about Haitians eating cats and dogs. It's just embarrassing representation for what our country is about, I thought. But, what is it, 71 million people disagree with me. So that's their right. That's their civic duty. As long as you voted. My thing is you can't complain if you didn't vote. I voted, so I can complain, but you can't be as full of bats. Just like I lost to Oklahoma State, I complain about the officiating, but what's the point? We got to get better, and as a country, we got to get better. So, it's interesting. You start talking about America or the United States. We have not the United States. We're not united, and I think that's it. Politics has always been a dirty business, but it is just gross, the things that have been said on this campaign, and I personally don't think it's a proper representation. As somebody who's Jewish, I obviously like his stance on Israel, but I'm willing to sacrifice that for a better representation of our country in terms of who you are as a gentleman. And part of it is I probably know too much. I have a dear friend who was one of his lawyers during his last presidency, and he's told me enough. And even he, doesn't work for him, doesn't want to work for him anymore because of January 6th. So, but again, this is how our democracy works. We vote, and whatever the Electoral College selects, that's who becomes president. And we need better candidates. We need better candidates across the board, not just him, but Kamala Harris wasn't a perfect candidate. Find the right candidates, and support the person who supports your agenda the most.
We are chatting with Doug Gottlieb, who is a leading anchor at Fox Sports over in the US and an absolute gun and has been for some time. And just before, I know, Brian, you've got lots of questions to ask, but and this is not a shot at America. I try and get there, Doug, whenever I can. My family absolutely love going to America. But I just want you, from a local's point of view, to explain to our audience. So we've got a population in Australia of short of 30 million. And a lot of countries would ask the same question, where Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Trump probably wouldn't be considered in the frame when it comes to leading our country and many other countries. Why? What's the why? Because I know you'd be able to understand that a lot of countries going, like, your country is so talented, you've got so many great people there. How do we get a short list of Harris, Biden, Trump? The rest of the world is going, what is happening?
Well, look, listen, this thing, it's a great question, and I'll give you my opinion. It's not facts in a second. Look, if we get right down to brass tacks, okay, Joe Biden was selfish. He's selfish. He wanted to run again. He aged very badly. Being a president ages you. And had he stepped aside, it obviously would have hurt his agenda as a president. But had he stepped aside, who knows who the candidate would have been? The people in politics I know say the only person Trump could have beaten was Kamala Harris. So, look, he was awful in the debate, and he still won the presidency. People voted him out before. He still won the presidency. So, he said, 9 years ago, he was going to repeal Obamacare, which everybody loves here, by the way, now. They just call it the ACA. But when he was asked about it during the debate, he says, they asked him if he had a plan. He's like, what was it? I had something of a plan, but anyway, why? The system of selecting who runs for one of the two major parties is probably the biggest flaw. First, you need a lot of money. Second, it's like you have to appeal to these fringes. For the Democrats, you have to appeal to the super far left to win the primaries, but you don't win an election, general election, with the super far left. You win it with the middle, right? So, and in truth, Trump was a Democrat most of his life. He surrounded himself with Democrats. So, but what he did was his appeal to the really far right, which is super weird, right? Because the really far right is very religious. Like, here's a guy who is a felon, multiple wives, adultery, multiple bankruptcies, and somehow you have the churches supporting him. It's just bizarre. So I wish I could tell you what's behind the right supporting him, but generally what it is to win the primaries, you have to win the fringes. To win the election, you have to win the middle, and the people to win the fringes are really hard to elect to win the middle. It's a screwy system. And then look, we have all kinds of other issues, but he won the suburbs, and the cities support the Democrats, and she didn't win the cities nearly as much and couldn't get people to get out to vote. So I don't know. Look, we've survived in the past. We'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I'll tell you who else is going to be fine.
And
Dougie, the Kansas City Chiefs. 8 and zip.
They will be fine.
8 and zip.
Yep.
Can you see them going undefeated this year?
No, probably not. I mean, if you look back, I don't know if you guys watched the game this past weekend or this past Monday, but they could have lost in regulation. And instead, it goes to overtime. Hard decision. Do you go for 2 and try and end the game? But you could lose the game. They're playing with a little fire. But what's interesting is they have the best quarterback in Pat Mahomes, but the team is really built more on their defense, and then Pat Mahomes just gets to come save the day at the end of the day. So they're very good. They're very consistent. Do I see them winning all 18 games? I don't. But that's probably the last mountain for Pat Mahomes to climb, is to have an undefeated regular season and then be the first team since the 72 Dolphins to go the whole season undefeated in order to be viewed, I think, modernly as the greatest quarterback of all time. But he's on that path.
Chatting with Doug Gottlieb, Fox Sports Radio. Now, Brian, I like to say that our man Colin Cowherd is the curtain raiser for our man Doug. Mm-hmm. And Colin had on the show today, Doug, Tom Brady. What did you learn from Tom Brady today? What did you take about the Mahomes versus Brady, and what's going on there?
Well, they're just so different, The similarities are the consistency of success. What's interesting about Brady is, in the middle of his career, when they went 16-0, they didn't win a Super Bowl. And then the next year, he got hurt, so he didn't play. He tore his ACL. His best teams in New England didn't win a Super Bowl. Like, you can't go 18-0, losing the Super Bowl on a crazy David Tyree catch. And, obviously that's the way it works in sports. Even though you won 18 of your 19 games, you lose the last one, you're not considered the greatest team of all time. But in modern history, it should be in any conversation. Brady's ability to do it for 20, however many years, is remarkable. But he's very different from Mahomes. Brady was, it was about precision and accuracy. He also, the real secret to Tom Brady is not just all the things as a quarterback, is that he constantly redid his contract and never made top dollar, because in the NFL, you have a salary cap. So if the quarterback takes too much money, you can't have a great team around him. Now, Pat Mahomes has a huge contract, but he's done something kind of similar. He's still in the upper half of quarterbacks, and he's got I think it's like a 10-year contract. Don't get me wrong, he's not going broke. So there's a little bit of similarities there, but Brady was known for that. And it allowed the Patriots to constantly have a really good, well-built team around him. Whereas when Mahomes first signed this deal, that's why they parted ways with Tyreek Hill and some other talented players. He's been able to make it work, but there's not a lot of talent on that offensive side. They've used the rest of that money for the defense and for the offensive line, and Mahomes is just so good that he can make it work regardless.
Doug, we've been watching Dynasty, which is about the Patriots, and it focuses on Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, pretty much, their relationship. Is it as frosty as we are led to believe? Because it sounds like it towards the back end, but in real life, do you think they're still in contact with each other, or they're just gone their separate ways?
I actually think it's, I think after his first year with Bruce Arians when they won the Super Bowl, I think he started to realize just how special Bill Belichick was. Yeah. Because Arians, who was his coach at Tampa Bay, and he ultimately had, basically put out the pasture, had him retire. Arians was a guy who, once it got to 5 o'clock, he went to go have a drink. Whereas Belichick, he just worked 24 hours a day, really on it. So, and that's how that's Tom Brady. Brady is an incredibly diligent worker. So, the reports here are that, Brady owns a small piece of the Raiders. He's pushing the Raiders to hire Bill Belichick.
Wow.
I think he respects the hell out of him.
Okay.
Wow.
I think he respects the hell out of him. I just think that, you're together 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been divorced. I've been divorced. You get 20 years. You're like, all right, like all those little things that irritate you in year 5, and then something new irritating in year 7, and they just add up, and you're ready for a change. But then, a couple years later, you go like, hey, she was pretty awesome back in her prime. She's a great lady. That's really what I think you got with Belichick and Brady, where I'm sure they irritated the hell out of each other with all their idiosyncrasies and their demands. And also, you're in New England. It's really cold. It's not a glamorous place. Then you go to Tampa for the end of your career. The weather's perfect when you're in football season, and so it's refreshing. But I do think when you stop and think about the partnership, it's the most successful partnership in the history of American sports.
Yeah.
And, I think bygones are bygones. And after a little time, time heals all those wounds, and you start to go, you know what? He was an amazing coach, and I was an amazing quarterback. So I think probably at the time that docuseries was released, I think the relationship was probably frosty. I think it's thawed a lot because both have kind of matured a lot. Both have gone through a divorce in their personal life since as well. So I think all of that is kind of related, that just too much time together. Now they've had time apart, and they realize it was a great time together. Okay,
Doug, I want to test you on a couple of things because we're talking on an iconic US broadcaster who has been an anchor for a long, long time. Longest running show in the United States when it comes to sports in the afternoons. We're talking about Doug Gottlieb.
Crap stat.
Okay. Crap stat, you're on debut, Doug, and I hope I can get you with this. Don't underestimate the data the Australians get. And I wonder if you know this. If you do, you probably do. But if you don't, I want you to go and share this as your own. Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, what is their penchant when it comes to a coin toss, whether they'd like to receive or kick off, as we like to call it here? Do you know?
They like to defer.
Yes, defer. Okay, I've got the actual numbers for you here, Doug, which you can use as your own because they are compelling.
Okay.
Success leaves clues. Andy Reid, when his side have won the toss, have only once in his history as an NFL coach decided to receive. In other words, he's deferred every time. Kyle Shanahan, who I reckon a lot of US people would not know, and we have this data back here, Kyle Shanahan has actually never not deferred when he's won the toss. Did you know that, Doug?
I didn't know that stat, but I do know. Now, one thing that's interesting was Tom Brady, and we talked about Bruce Arians, I believe when they played, not in the Super Bowl, I think when they played the Packers in the NFC Championship game, they decided to receive. I can remember now because they got the ball at halftime. I forget. It was one of the Super Bowls recently. Somebody decided to receive, but usually you defer. And then, have you guys ever heard the term "flip the game"?
No.
Okay, so Brady is the best there's ever been at flipping the game. What is flipping the game? Flipping the game is when you defer, that means you get to receive in the second half.
Yes.
So flipping the game is you get the ball at the end of the first half and you score, and then you get the ball coming out of halftime and you score again, back-to-back possessions. It's called flipping the game. And Brady and the Patriots were considered the best to ever do that.
One more crap stat. Hit us again because he's come back out with us and he's very, very good.
Crap stat.
So we happen to know a person who won $1 million, admittedly Australian dollars, but back in those days it was about parity. Where in 2004, Doug, the Australian Open tennis was won by Serena Williams, Roger Federer. I hope I've got these years right.
Yeah.
And then followed shortly by that in February, because that's in January, of course, and the Patriots win the Super Bowl. Now, a particular person who we know, favourite number is 13, so they're sitting there, they've got all plucked up, and they see, that was 13 years ago.
So it's now
$1 million in 2004, and they realise but by then, Roger Federer is absolutely cast.
Yeah.
So they have the same bet, but this time to win $1 million. 13 years later in 2017, Serena Williams who win the Australian Open, Roger Federer at any old price, Patriots who win it. They didn't watch the game live, and who was the player, Doug, who just catches that ball in that big comeback? He's part of Fox at the moment. He saves it.
Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman. When you see Julian next,
I'll give you the story of that one. I'll give you the story of that one. Okay. So my kids were little at the time. I think they were 2000. Would you say 2017?
2004 to 2017. Yep.
Yeah, so 2017. So in 2017, my kids were, let's see here, my daughters were 8 and my son was, my son's 2009. So the girls were 11, he was 8. And we were in Connecticut at the time, so they were kind of quasi-Patriots fan, whatever. And the Falcons were up 28-3.
Mm.
And at some point early in the second half, it was time for bed. Because, among the stupid things in America is Super Bowl Sunday, there's no holiday afterwards, and the game starts really late if you're on the East Coast. Anyway, so all of my kids like, Dad, if the Patriots come back, will you wake us up? I'm like, yeah. Now, again, I'm trying to also be like a good role model for my children. And it was like 28-10, nothing, 28-17, nothing. They start coming back. Now I'm like, should I go wake them up? It wasn't until the next morning that they got up all sleepy. I can't believe the Falcons won the Super Bowl. I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you guys this, but the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So they'll never let me forget it. They're like, we're not going to the Super Bowl at your house because if it gets bad and there's a comeback, you'll never tell us.
Wow.
That's never happening again.
Doug Gottlieb, thank you very much, mate. It's been a big working day for yourself post-election. We appreciate that. Once again, joining us on the Run Home with Joel and Fletch. We hope your Australian audience is growing at a rapid rate because they love our man, don't they, Brian?
They do. Thank you very much, Doug. You are a treasure.
Hey, this is a real thing. So Ben Tweedy, we've been every day I see him, I say hello, mate. I've been trying with the accent.
G'day. Just say.
He calls diagonal.
Just say g'day.
He says diag. He calls diag. I was like, it's diagonal, diag. So I'm working with him on his pronunciation of American words, and he's working with me on my accent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I'm trying.
Dougie, tell the old diag we'll get him on the program, and we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining the Run Home with Joel and Fletch.
All right, fellas.
Thanks, Doug.
Cheers.